Hello. Got the frame together. Most of the front end stuff, the A-arms on. Again, I'm gonna try to hold the camera a different way. We'll see if this looks any better. But I'm not gonna make the video on, putting springs in or doing it. There's 100 of those. I'm just gonna point out some little tips that I've run across doing a few of these things. One is when I put the lower A-arm on, it's in place, fold it down out of the way, set the spring in there. One thing you have to remember, it's kind of hard to see, but you see that hole right back there? There's two of them. Not the shock mounts, but there's a pocket, and the other hole is right under the tip of the spring. I've always been told that when you put that in the pocket, you want it between the two holes. I guess if you get it close, it's fine. And then I put new rubber isolators up in the frame. And I use this little spring compressor. This one works fine for me. You take that piece, take it off, drop the shaft down through the middle where the shock would go, and then you would thread it from this side. You use that to grab the springs, and if you can tell, it'll be on the angle. One will be higher than the other, so it lets you grab the spring. And then you simply put an impact on it, pull her on up there, and here is something that's important. So these are new ones, I've already replaced them. When you're putting the torque on there that it takes to compress those springs, these right here were actually flat washers to start. Now they weren't hardened or anything, but I put two of them together and then slip that down in the hole, and then I'll put a little bit of grease between the two of those, and that lets that head spin better. But you gotta use something that's tight because the hole is right up against the A-arm there. You can't get a big washer in. But to use, I actually found these today. They're a little thicker, a little harder, but when you put just a plain thin washer in there, it literally squeezed through and then grinded that center off. And it got round because when you put it in there, it ends up going back up on that curve and just pulling itself down into the curve. So if you could find small, heavy ones like that, drop that in, goes in. Let's say it'll worry you a little because it does get tight, and the impact, I mean, I got a pretty good one. It'll start slowing down a little bit. So that's that. And then just a quick, just to catch up, and then some pictures too. Sometimes you tear these apart and you can't remember what goes what. All the holes for the sway bar and the bumper always to the front, so that tells you which side it's on. This one up here, you just kind of gotta eyeball that, see where it lines up, or mark them so you always know. And then same thing on these. These can go on opposite side. These can't. I mean, I guess anything could happen, but if you're gonna have your brakes in the back, it can only go one way. These covers here, they kind of go one way, I guess. So when it's hard to get this pulled all the way up sometimes. So when you put the bottom one on, I usually just thread it about halfway through the castle nut, and then that leaves me enough room that once I start getting the spring into place, and again, sometimes you can see the marks right in here where I took a pry bar and because it don't pull the spring straight, so you kind of got to pull it over a little, push it. I put a jack under this lower arm, and I just, instead of trying to hold up on it, sometimes I'll just hit a pump on the jack, and it'll get close, but with no weight in this thing, you can't jack it up. Like if you had a motor in the car, you could change everything down here by jacking this up or letting this down. The motor will compress all of it, but you can see how this is bottom out. The spring is pushing that down, which is pulling this down. So this one is all the way on the rubber stop. And until you get some weight in it, then that's just what it's going to be. But I'd pry that back a little bit, give it a little jack. There's just enough room if you put, like 5 threads on here to catch the top, and then you can tighten it. Once you get a half a nut, 3/4 of a nut on there, then you can start releasing the spring compressor just a little at a time, and you'll have to pry those springs over into the pocket. But that was just the tip for today. Get the pocket lined up. Some springs are flatter on the top and then coil down a little more for that to fit in there. Some springs are just, you can't tell top from bottom. These were some Pro Touring springs that I got. I don't know that they're any lower. I mean, they're pretty much a stock thing, but they're new and shiny. So that was it. I mean, there's nothing to any of this stuff. I got my correct bushings in, and so these end up being the ones. I'm pretty sure they're off of an 8081, but the arms are from a 79. So all I can get, and I've heard it a few times, is they're at the end of the year, they start using what they've got. And it doesn't matter what you use. If you got an A-arm with bushings in it, it really doesn't matter because all the dimensions are the same. It's just where that bushing went. And then of course the other little thing, you got to remember the bushing with the little nubs on it goes at the front. The one that fits flush goes on the back. Long one in the front and that. So these are all done. Torqued the bottoms, I don't know, 80, 85. Top notes are torqued down to 60. Went ahead and put them in. One thing you can check, and sometimes it just depends on who made it, but on the nut under there, see how close that fits sometimes, because you might have to put a little shim in it to get the hole for the cotter pin to line up. That side, it was very close. I really didn't need to on this one, but I did anyway. So anyway, that's it. I'll start, I'll say I'll do the bushings, not the bushings, do the calipers, rest of everything on the front, but like on the discs here, I will scuff these real quick and then just put a clear coating on everything. I went and got some high temp caliper clear stuff. And that way they'll just stay nice and clean for years instead of even flash rusting. It's just take the time, do the little stuff. I mean, that'll end up taking several hours, but I got some other things I can do. At the same time I've got the clear out, I'll actually clear my gas lines, my brake lines. I'll clear those pieces. Anything else that you want to have that natural look. Not sure on the gas tank. I always like the gas tanks being black, even though they're silver originally, but something about them. I just like the look of everything clean underneath. If you do one correct, these are supposed to be gray. The tips of things are supposed to be tips of A-arms are a different color. There's that sort of stuff, but I'm not getting that detailed about it. Did a car that way one time, numbers match it. I'll never do that again as far as trying to find the right alternator, the right shock with, you know, the XX code. I'm just not going to do that ever again. It was fun once, that's it. So this one's going to be built. It'll be a show car, but we're going to drive it. And that's it. I'll get started on some of this other stuff. If I think of something that is just a tip, again, other than just, there's 100 videos of what to do and how to do. And some of them are definitely made a lot better because stands and assistance and whatever it takes. But these will just be for the tips of things that'll help you out. So on to the next one. Goodbye.